And hello, good evening, everybody. It's very good to see you all here tonight, as usual, for our weekly Tech Tuesday evening. I'm glad you could all join us on this nice chilly evening over here in KZN. I'm going to be sharing my screen and getting going with our almost last chapter in the book. And we are talking about males and females tonight. So we've got some very interesting topics coming up in the next week or so. Right, so as per usual, we are following on in our series of the book, Your Body's Sign Language by Dr. Jim McAfee. And as I said, we are talking tonight about males and females and provision for posterity, or posterity, should I say. We're all different. And with that difference comes different issues. So we're going to cover a few of those things. There's some very, very big topics over here, so I'm not going to get through everything tonight, but we'll go as far as we can as usual. Many of our environmental exposures today are estrogenic in character, including many electromagnetic fields, and this includes things like computers, cell phones, overhead power lines, etc., plastics, pesticides, herbicides, pharmaceutical drugs, and surfactants in soaps. So that includes things like what you're going to find in most laundry detergents, hand soaps, shower gels, all those things that we assume are safe, but are actually problems. Same with the electromagnetic fields. You think your cell phone is safe next to your ear, or your laptop or iPad or whatever it is that you're using. But remember, they are picking up signals in the air as well. Those are the electromagnetic fields that are around us all the time. Just by me broadcasting tonight, there are electromagnetic fields all around. Those things are causing problems in our systems. Estrogenic pollution is wreaking havoc in both animal and human populations, because there's a lot more animals being seen now and being treated for things like cancer, which never used to happen before. This includes things like sharks, and sharks were always thought to be completely immune to cancer, but there are signs of them coming up now with cancer, which is very, very scary. It is the belief of the author, that's Jim McAfee, that this kind of pollution is a major contributor to hormone-related cancers. That is what your estrogenic problems are. It's hormone-related. So technology tends to move people away from sunlight. Look around. If you've got kids or grandkids, where do they spend their days these days? Not very often outside in fresh air. You seldom see children climbing trees. You seldom see children playing around in the park because it's not safe. So they spend their day playing on TV games, cell phones, laptops, and other things inside, not anywhere out in the fresh air and sunlight. So inadequate exposure to light and vitamin D deficiency increases the likelihood of developing breast and prostate cancer. So by being out in sunlight, that is your vitamin D main source. But because when we're outside, in most cases, we're so covered up to protect ourselves against skin cancer, we are losing out on the vitamin D. And that vitamin D deficiency causes a lot of problems because it decreases your immune system, which increases your likelihood of developing problems. Now, lack of essential nutrients contributes to several conditions associated with one or the other of the sexes, meaning either specific male or specific female, or both. Iodine appears to be essential for preventing lumps in women's breasts. Iodine you'll find in things like seafood, something that we don't get a lot of these days. And also, that is part of the reason why a lot of salt has got iodine added to it, because iodine is a problem. Now, people tend to be allergic to iodine, which is a problem as well in and of itself. Zinc and essential fatty acids are important in prevention of swelling of the prostate gland. So we see iodine causing problems in women. Zinc and the essential fatty acids, which is your omega-3s, is a problem in men. And vitamin A may prevent heavy menstrual bleeding. I'll get into this later, but I found that to be very interesting. Vitamin C and flavonoids may be important for coping with hot flashes. Ladies who are going through menopause, I think you will understand more about the hot flashes than some of us men do. And we will be covering that later on in this talk. And arginine, which is an amino acid, may be significant for addressing impotence, another now becoming common problem in men. And it looks as though if COVID doesn't get us first, we might breed ourselves out of existence. The big scary thing for most women, and everybody is aware of it, we have months that are exposing this where people are becoming aware of it, and this is breast cancer. Now, breast cancer, while it is more common in women, is not exclusive to women, because men also have breasts and can also get breast cancer. And this is often found out by a lump or a growing mass in the breast. I think one of the most famous people or one of the most famous men that I'm aware of anyway, that had breast cancer was Tom Cruise, and he was able to overcome that. Breast cancer is one of the most common cancers in women, and it often appears to be associated with excess estrogen exposure. Inadequate exposure to sunlight also increases the risk of breast cancer, because that means your vitamin D is lower than what it should be. Breast cancer is also linked to increased exposure to estrogenic hormones and xenoestrogens. Big fancy words, but it basically means environmental pollutants that have an estrogen-like effect on the body. Now, most laundry detergents, this I picked up from Dr. Cesar Nambasi, who's part of our team up in Durban. And as far as I know, she's busy doing some research on this, but most laundry detergents, you will use quite a large cup of powder. And the majority of that is made up of fillers, which are known as phthalates. And these are also xenoestrogens. So your simple laundry detergent can lead to breast cancer. A very, very scary thought, and something that we need to educate people on. HRT, or hormone replacement therapy, and exposure to organochlorine pesticides like DDT, which fortunately has now been banned, are known to increase the risk of breast cancer. DDT has been banned, but sadly enough, you will still find it in the environment. Natural estrogen-like substances, known as phytoestrogens, in plant foods may protect the breast to a certain degree by blocking the ability of more harmful synthetic estrogen or synthetic estrogen-like substances, such as DDT, from activating the estrogen receptors in the breast tissues and causing abnormal cell growth. So by having the correct plants, we can protect ourselves, might not prevent the cancer, but it can certainly slow it down, which means that a very slow-growing cancer might only develop about 110 years after you have died, so you don't really have to worry about it. Hormone mimics that should be considered as risk factors for the development of breast cancer include exposure to pesticides, a very common thing these days, herbicides, which are weed killers, just by the way, strong electromagnetic fields, which you will find from things like TV screens, laptops, etc. Estrogenic surfactants, which is found in quite common household detergents and quite often in soaps that you're using for cleaning your hands and your face. And estrogenic substances in plastics. Fortunately, this has struck a chord, and you'll find a lot of plastics are now shown to be comparatively safe because they've taken out these estrogenic problems in plastic. But from an extra safe perspective, one shouldn't really be drinking water or juices and things out of anything except glass. Fat cells in the body can also produce estrogen and should not be overlooked as a contributor to excessive bodily estrogen accumulation. So that spare tire around the tummy, that can actually be containing a lot of extra estrogen, which could lead to extra problems. So some suggestions. Cruciferous vegetables reduce the risk of breast cancer by directing the metabolism of estrogen in a pathway that is not harmful. And there's quite a long scientific explanation as to how the cruciferous works, but this is the shortened version of it. And your cruciferous veggies include things like cauliflower, broccoli, and cabbage. So anything that is from the cruciferous family is a good vegetable to be eating. And this is referred to as sending estrogen down a pathway where it becomes good estrogen rather than bad estrogen. We've heard of good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. Well, now we hear of good and bad estrogen. The Southern Research Institute found that a cruciferous blend slowed breast cancer cell growth in culture by 37%. That is quite significant because most chemotherapies are not quite that effective. Flavonoids, which are the water-soluble coloring pigments in fruits and vegetables, dramatically slow the growth of breast cancer cells in culture as well. These are, when they talk about in culture, it is human breast cells that were harvested many, many decades ago, but are still continued to be grown in labs. And you don't really want to be injecting cancer into humans. So what they're doing is they're using breast cells, and so that's exactly the same as what is in your normal breast. So they're using the cells from there and exposing them to carcinogenic toxins to see what happens. And then they can also similarly expose them to food and supplements to see what happens and how it whether it'll kill the cancer, help it to grow, or whatever. These are some of your flavonoids or your flavonoid-rich foods. The Southern Research Institute found that one flavonoid blend slowed breast cancer cell growth in culture by an amazing 92%. That is some potent prevention over there, just from their food. And if you're not getting it from food, you should get it from a supplement that is a concentrated food, because imagine what that can do to a breast cell, a cancerous breast cell. Carotenoids, which are the fat soluble, so the flavonoids are water soluble, carotenoids are fat soluble coloring pigments in fruits and vegetables, also appear to help prevent breast cancer. And the red pigment in tomatoes, pink grapefruit, and watermelon, called lycopene, is one of the most potent of all antioxidants and has been shown to reduce both size and number of breast tumors in rats. And these are some of the sources of lycopene, which I don't really have time to go into that tonight, but we can cover that at a later stage if you need me to. So the suggestions include, and again, sounds simple, but not always easy. avoid excessive exposure to estrogens, including xenoestrogens. So be aware of what you're eating, what you're exposing yourself to, and what you are cleaning your home and your clothes with, because they could very well be part of the problem. Consider the use of progesterone if the ovaries have been removed surgically. And that you need to discuss with your gynecologist. Consider alternatives to a hysterectomy, such as myomectomy, to preserve progesterone production. Hysterectomy is quite dramatic, and sadly, I see these happening on a weekly basis in my local hospitals. Myomectomies are not quite as invasive and are not quite as destructive, and I am starting to see a couple more of these happening these days instead of the hysterectomies. And we need to eat fish that is rich in omega-3 oils. And if you're not able to get that, then supplement with fish oils. But be very, very careful of the source of that fish oil, because fish that is caught in warm water or off river mouths that are near cities or urban areas could very well be heavily contaminated with heavy metals, which is carcinogenic. So you need to find a fish oil that is ultra pure. So therefore, you need to be able to trust the supplier of that. And we know that in Neolife, we have a fish oil, an omega-3, that is a combination of 4 different fish, that are found in specific areas. It is species specific, and every single batch is tested for over 200 known contaminants for heavy metals, DDTs, all sorts of herbicides, pesticides, etc. And the detectable rate needs to be 0. If it's not like that, they pull the batch. And we need to eat richly colored fruits and veggies, or if you can't do that, supplement with phytonutrients, which include carotenoids, flavonoids, and cruciferous veggies. Sadly, in today's lifestyle and also in seasons, you're not always going to get the correct foods that have got these carotenoids and flavonoids and cruciferous compounds. So therefore, my suggestion, in my opinion, if you're not getting it from the food, you need to supplement accordingly. And we have a very good combination, loosely known as the Cancer Pack, although that should not really be advertised as such, but it is a combination of products that are carotenoids, flavonoids, and cruciferous in a pack called Phytodefense. And then you need to supplement with quality oils from grains, legumes, and nuts. Sound familiar? And then we also need to use a good quality multivitamin. And my suggestion to anybody that I ever speak to on nutrition is, as a basis, have a good multivitamin and mineral with your quality oils in it. And then together with that, you have a good omega-3. That, as a very, very basic program for anybody, is ideal. From there, you can add in whatever else is necessary. And in my opinion, again, Formula 4 is a very good quality multivitamin, multi-mineral, and whole grain oil in one. So, breast lumps. These are benign lumps in a woman's breast. So, ladies, if you are doing your breast check on a regular basis, which you should be doing, and you feel a lump, don't panic immediately, because it quite probably isn't a cancer yet, but it is something to be aware of and to check out if necessary. Now, these are often associated with excessive caffeine or methylxanthine. There's a big fancy word for caffeine. I'm glad we've got the word caffeine instead. Intake. So people who are drinking a lot of coffee, a lot of tea, And a lot of sodas all contain caffeine. 1 to 2 cups of coffee a day isn't a problem. 1 to 2 pots of coffee a day becomes a problem. And a lack of iodine may contribute to the problem as well. So this may result in an immune compromise. Remember, iodine is part of the immune system. If you're not getting enough from food or supplementation, or if you have an allergy, you are leaving yourself open to problems. Now, lumps in the breast can make cancer detection more difficult because, as I said, not every lump is a cancer. There are some cancers, they call them differentiated or undifferentiated, and the undifferentiated cancer simply means that you cannot tell the difference between the cancer cell and a normal cell. That is a very, very big problem. So complete avoidance of methylxanthines, such as coffee, tea, chocolate, also contains caffeine, and sodas, may benefit fibrous breasts. So if you have a tendency to these fibroids or lumps in your breast, maybe it's time to look at your diet and stay away from some of these things that contain caffeine. Then we also need to reduce fat intake because that lowers the risk of fibrocytic breast disease as well. Reducing fat intake appears to benefit prostate problems as well because breast tissue and prostate tissue are very, very similar. And this also may be associated with excess estrogen because men also have estrogen, just like ladies. Ladies just have more. An iodine deficiency may be a contributing factor to fibrocytic breast disease. Oops. Yeah, so almost a repeat of what I said about the reduced fat intake. And iodine is involved in keeping cholesterol fluid and eliminating excess cholesterol. Interesting how these things work together. So if your iodine levels are low, your cholesterol levels are probably high, and vice versa. And a woman's ovary is second only to the thyroid in its concentration of iodine. Fluoride, that stuff that you find in drinking water and more commonly in toothpaste, is known to interfere with thyroid function and was once used to treat an overactive thyroid. That I found very interesting. This makes one wonder if the widespread use of fluoride in toothpaste and drinking water might not contribute to breast disease. Look at the increase in toothpaste users, look at the increase in breast cancer, and in fact, the fluoride in water that hasn't been filtered, draw the conclusions. I'm not going to do the research on that one just yet. Now, kelp or sea vegetation is an excellent natural source of iodine, together with other trace minerals. So if you're having natural sea salt, that is also a good source of iodine. There's some things that you can find with, let me get a picture out the way, the benefits of kelp. It has superior nutritional value, is involved with detoxification, improved digestive health, contains rare antioxidants. And we know about this because this is used in our skincare range at the moment. It's very important for thyroid health. It's a good source of vitamin K. It has anti-inflammatory properties. It's a good stress relief. It's high in trace minerals and lowers cholesterol. So bonus all around. Vitamin E is commonly recommended for fibrocytic breast disease. Vitamin E supports progesterone function in the body. As you can see, again, all of these things work together. Our bodies have been put together in an amazing way. Iodine seems to work more effectively than vitamin E supplementation and may be more effective than progesterone. So one's got to look at your sources of iodine, where you're getting it, how much are you getting, and work it together with your supplementation. So foods rich in iodine include things like seaweed. And yes, you can eat seaweed. things like shrimp, cod, yogurt, sea salt, and eggs. So the suggestions, simple thing, not easy, avoid caffeine containing foods and beverages. So if you are eating a food or drinking something out of a can or a box, please read the label and check and see what is in there. How much caffeine is in there, how much iodine is in there, etc. These are some of the things that contain caffeine. We know coffee, we know Starbucks, we know Red Bull, we know chocolate. Those are just some of the more common issues or the foods that contain caffeine. We need to avoid excessive fluoride intake. So in my personal philosophy, I know that we have fluoride in our water, so I use a ceramic filter for all of our water, and no drinking water is taken directly out of the tap. It all goes through a filter, and that filter filters out the heavy metals, the fluorides, etc. I have also converted my toothpaste to a non-fluoride toothpaste. So one needs to be careful about that as well. So one can get fluoridated water, fluoridated toothpaste. When you're cooking with tap water, you're getting fluoride over there. Pardon me. Tea grown in fluoride-rich soil is another one. And those are the things that we don't always know about, is your tea and that sort of thing. Salt that would be supplemented with fluoride. I didn't know that. I've heard of salt being supplemented with iodine. I didn't know about the fluoride. So one's got to be aware and careful about where these things come from. And we need to supplement with a source of iodine. If tolerated, if you are allergic to iodine, please speak to your doctor to find out how one can overcome this. And then give vitamin E a trial. In other words, test it out. See how well it's going to work for you. Because, as we've always said, not everything, nutrition is not a blanket issue for everybody. Everybody needs nutrition, but what works for one doesn't work for the other. Look at your diet. A supplement is exactly that. It is in conjunction to your diet. A good balanced diet is always key, but as we know in today's lifestyle, good balanced diet isn't always possible. So we need to be aware of these things. And I have frozen here for a minute by the looks of things. There we go. So vitamin E gives you a very, very powerful antioxidant support. As we know with our Neolife vitamin E, it is not a synthetic vitamin E. It is a food-sourced vitamin E that actually contains all 8 of the tocopherols and tocotrienols, which is fairly unique amongst nutrition supplements because most vitamin E's are derived from things like crude oil, which is natural, but I don't think I want oil in my body. I would rather have a food-sourced version. And then you need to consider progesterone if needed, but please discuss this with your gynecologist before taking any over-the-counter products. Progesterone, you get in things like creams, you get it in tablet form, you get it in injection form as well. Please talk to your doctor. If it's necessary, go ahead and use it. If it's not, if it's just yeah, it might be necessary in case, rather stay away. Right, I'm going to quit this for now because I only have about 6 minutes left. So we'll get into the men next week. Right, does anybody have any questions, any feedback on previous problems that they may have experienced? Please unmute yourself if you want to ask questions. Any comments? Nope. All right, I'm going to stop recording.